There is a fundamental agreement at the heart of any civilized society, a social contract that binds us together. Citizens agree to abide by laws, to follow the rules that ensure order and harmony. In return, the government guarantees their safety and protection, promising to uphold justice and maintain peace. Today, that contract is being broken, and the consequences are dire. Across America, a dangerous ideology is taking hold, spreading like wildfire through communities. It undermines the rule of law and endangers ordinary citizens, creating an environment of chaos and fear. This ideology promotes leniency towards criminals, often advocating for reduced sentences and early releases. It often blames the victim instead of the perpetrator, turning justice on its head. The result is a growing climate of fear and uncertainty, where people no longer feel safe in their own neighborhoods. The very idea of self-defense is under attack, with citizens discouraged from protecting themselves. Citizens are encouraged to be passive in the face of danger, relying solely on authorities who may not always be able to help. Reliance on an increasingly overburdened and ineffective government is presented as the only solution, leaving many feeling helpless. This dangerous trend is not accidental, but a calculated move to shift power dynamics. It is the result of a deliberate strategy, often funded by powerful individuals with a radical agenda, seeking to reshape society to their own ends. George Soros, a billionaire financier with a long history of backing left-wing causes, has become a central figure in this shift toward criminal leniency. His influence is felt far and wide, impacting the very fabric of the justice system. Through his Open Society foundations, Soros has poured millions of dollars into local district attorney races across the United States. This strategic investment aims to reshape the legal landscape by supporting candidates who align with his vision. His chosen candidates often campaign on platforms that prioritize what they call criminal justice reform. These platforms promise sweeping changes to the traditional approaches of law enforcement and prosecution. This reform, however, often translates into a revolving door for criminals. Critics argue that these policies undermine public safety by allowing repeat offenders to return to the streets quickly. These Soros-backed prosecutors often advocate for policies such as eliminating cash bail, which they argue disproportionately affects low-income individuals. Reducing sentences for violent crimes, which they believe can help in rehabilitating offenders and reducing prison populations, and declining to prosecute entire categories of offenses, which they claim are minor or non-violent. Their stated goal is to reduce mass incarceration and address racial disparities in the justice system. They argue that these reforms are necessary to create a more equitable society. However, the unintended consequences of their policies have been devastating for the communities they claim to serve. Critics point to rising crime rates and a sense of lawlessness as evidence of the failure of these reforms. Crime rates have surged in cities where these policies have been implemented, leaving law-abiding citizens to bear the brunt of this dangerous social experiment. The debate continues as to whether these reforms are a step forward or a perilous gamble with public safety. The evidence is clear. Cities that have embraced Soros-funded prosecutors have experienced a sharp increase in crime. Homicides, shootings, and carjackings are on the rise. This surge in lawlessness coincides directly with the election of these progressive prosecutors. Their policies of leniency send a clear message to criminals. The risk of getting caught and punished is minimal. This approach ignores the fundamental purpose of the criminal justice system, to deter crime and keep communities safe. Instead, it prioritizes the rights of criminals over the well-being of law-abiding citizens. The results are tragically predictable. More victims, more suffering, and a growing sense of despair in communities plagued by violence. Washington, D.C., once considered a city on the rise, has become a stark example of the dangers of Soros-backed prosecutors. Since the election of a Soros-supported district attorney, the city has witnessed a dramatic increase in carjackings. This crime, once relatively rare, has become a terrifying epidemic, with residents living in fear of being targeted. The city's response to this crisis has been woefully inadequate. The police department is overwhelmed, and the justice system seems more interested in coddling criminals than holding them accountable. The message to would-be carjackers is clear. In Soros-funded D.C., the rewards of crime far outweigh the risks. Philadelphia, another city that has embraced the Soros agenda, offers a chilling glimpse into the future of urban America under these radical policies. The city's murder rate has skyrocketed, reaching levels not seen in decades. The streets of Philadelphia have become a battleground, with innocent citizens caught in the crossfire. The city's Soros-backed district attorney has been widely criticized for his soft-on-crime approach. He has refused to seek the death penalty in even the most heinous murder cases, and his office has a reputation for plea deals that allow violent criminals to walk free with minimal sentences. The result is a climate of impunity where criminals act with brazen disregard for the law, knowing that they are unlikely to face serious consequences. Section 6. The case of Daniel Penny. When self-defense is criminalized, the chilling case of Daniel Penny in New York City illustrates the dangerous consequences of this distorted view of justice. It highlights how the legal system can sometimes fail those who act in defense of themselves and others. Penny, a young Marine veteran, found himself facing charges after intervening in a situation where a mentally unstable individual was threatening passengers on a subway. His military training kicked in and he acted swiftly to neutralize the threat, believing he was protecting innocent lives. Despite acting to protect himself and others, Penny was demonized in the media and targeted by prosecutors eager to make an example of him. The media frenzy painted him as a villain rather than a hero, twisting the narrative to fit a particular agenda. The Penny case exemplifies a growing trend of criminalizing self-defense, particularly when those defending themselves are white and the aggressors are minorities. This trend raises serious questions about the fairness and impartiality of our justice system. This double standard sends a dangerous message that certain lives are more valuable than others, and that the right to self-defense is conditional. It undermines the fundamental principle that everyone has the right to protect themselves from harm. It creates a climate of fear, where citizens are hesitant to intervene, even when witnessing crimes for fear of legal repercussions. This hesitation can lead to more harm and fewer people willing to stand up against wrongdoing, ultimately making our communities less safe. Section 7. Emboldening criminals, the price of leniency. The surge in crime in cities with Soros-backed prosecutors is not a coincidence. It is the direct result of policies that embolden criminals and undermine the rule of law. When criminals believe they can act with impunity, they will. When the justice system is more concerned with protecting the rights of criminals than the safety of victims, it creates a breeding ground for lawlessness. This leniency toward criminals comes at a steep price. It is law-abiding citizens who bear the brunt of these failed policies. They are the ones who live in fear, who are victimized, and who are left to pick up the pieces of shattered communities. The human cost of this misguided ideology is immeasurable. Section 8. Reclaiming our streets, a call for balance. It is time to restore balance to our justice system. We can have compassion for those who have made mistakes without sacrificing the safety and security of our communities. We can address racial disparities in the criminal justice system without embracing policies that make our cities more dangerous. This requires electing prosecutors who understand the fundamental purpose of law enforcement, to protect the innocent and hold criminals accountable. It means supporting law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe. And it means rejecting the dangerous ideology of leniency that has brought us to this point. Section 9. Conclusion. The future of justice, the future of our cities hangs in the balance. Will we continue down the path of lawlessness and chaos, or will we reclaim our streets and restore the rule of law? The choice is ours. We must demand accountability from our elected officials, we must support law enforcement, and we must never surrender our right to self-defense. Our safety, our freedom, and our very civilization depend on it.